Hello and welcome to Box, the football talk show brought to you by Sportology TV with myself, Ali Drew, and my co-host, Uni. On the last episode, first up, we were joined by former Leicester City Premier League winner Danny Simpson, who was talking to us about his return to the pitch from injury, and we were joined by 5 Live Sports' Nick Bright, who was talking to us about his beloved Arsenal. But on today's show...
Guys, we've got another huge guest. He's a friend of the show, somebody who's been on before. And you know what? He's everywhere. He's on the TV, he's on the radio. Every time I turn on the car, he's there. Whenever I come home, I turn on the TV, he's there. So he's a busy man. He's doing his things for football after doing his things on the pitch. None other than, I was going to actually introduce him by his song, but it's got a few explicit words in there. But Gabby Agbonlahor. Gabby, how you doing, my friend? You all right?
I'm very good, thank you. You guys okay?
All good, all good.
We're good. How's life treating you? Obviously, you're busy at the moment. Lockdown not affecting you too much?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm getting to go to work in London for Sky and Talk Sport. So, yeah, no complaints from me.
Gabby, where do we start? Breaking news yesterday. Massive news, the biggest news of the season. Frank Lampard has been relieved of his duties as a manager from Chelsea Football Club. Give me your thoughts on that, because there was rumours, there were some murmurs, maybe in the last week, especially, that Frank's job would go, and they already had a replacement in place that we'll talk about later on. But Frank Lampard, was it too early, Gabby?
I think you can go both ways with it, really. I mean, when I do look at it, I look at maybe why not give him till the end of the season? Yes, they've been struggling. He spent a lot of money, but just give him a season and then judge it. At the end of the season, I still think that Chelsea had a good chance of getting into the top 4. But then you look at the other angle. If you spend 200 million and you're in 9th position and you're playing really poor football and your big signings are playing really badly, like Havertz and Werner, then you can see the reason when a German manager's available that might be able to come in and get better from them players. So I can see both sides of the take, really, and it's a tough one to call.
Do you think that Chelsea is known to sort of not keep the managers, they get rid of them quickly. But do you think he was allowed to spend that much money? They could have said no, but he was allowed to spend a crazy amount of money. Do you think that really he should have been given a bit more time to have these great players gel together? Because obviously, he's got great players in, but they need time to actually gel together on the pitch.
Yeah, 100%. And the perfect example is Ndombele from Spurs. He was really poor last season. He's come into this season now and he's one of the best players in the league. Them players probably needed a season, get used to the pace of the Premier League, especially Werner. I think there's a good player in there, but he just needs a few more games to get used to the Premier League. And maybe these players will come good. And I'm 100% sure now that a new manager's come in, we'll see Havertz and Werner being the best players in the league, because that's how football works. But definitely, I think Lampard should have been given time. And he surprised me even more with the relationship he's got with Chelsea and the owner. That's what surprised me the most, that having that tight relationship with the club, you'd think you get more time than other managers. But Chelsea are just ruthless, and I don't think any other club would have sacked Frank Lampard right away now.
Actually, talking about players that took time to gel or just sort of get English football was Didier Drogba. He never had the best first season, but after that he became a massive striker for Chelsea. So they've seen it before where maybe a player hasn't done well in the first season, but it's taken them longer. You've actually talked about Ndombele for Tottenham. Yeah. He was great again last night. But then we know football's quite a fickle sport. They already discussed their replacement a month ago, I think it was, with Thomas Tuchel, former Borussia Dortmund, from former PSG manager. What do you make of that replacement for Frank?
I actually called it, to be fair, a few weeks ago. I had a feeling that with Havertz being so poor and signing for 80, 90 million, I just felt that they would go for a German manager. Tuchel being freed from his duties at PSG, it was like a perfect chance to get him in before another club got him. And I think he's just unlucky for Lampard. Maybe if Havertz and Werner weren't there, they might not have went for Tuchel, I think that's just part of the job. But I do feel sorry for Frank Lampard, because you can tell that he was probably in shock to get sacked. I feel that, was it 50 days ago, Chelsea were top of the league? Football can change so dramatically, and Chelsea could have turned it round. They've got a great squad. And I just do feel sorry for him and Jody Morris.
what do you make of this ruthless model that Chelsea have? If we know Frank's had his first main dip, he did well last season with not signing many players, got him to 4th position. This season they were doing all right, and then obviously he's gone through this little dip. But what do you make of the ruthless model that they've got, where they just sack a manager if he goes through in this instance his first bump of the season?
I don't quite understand it. I know I've had some awful owners at football clubs and friends that have had them, but Abramovich has done it since he's come to Chelsea, and you see other clubs like Manchester United. I mean, if Solskjaer was at Chelsea, he would have been sacked a long time ago. I just don't understand how he expects to get, you know, the titles that he wants by doing this. There's no trust, there's no loyalty to a manager to have a project. And I just feel that you look at other clubs like Arteta, for instance, they're stuck with him. He's turning it around slowly, starting to get his ideas into the club. And that's what Lampard would have done for sure. I think maybe my only problem with Lampard maybe was that he had too many players. I feel like sometimes you can have too many players. He had too many players to try and keep happy. There was talks of players causing problems behind the scenes like Rudiger, Jorginho. And when you've got big international players that you aren't playing in such a big squad, there's going to be friction. So maybe there was other things that have gone on that we're not sure about that have made them sack him.
But does the model work though, Gabby? Because if you have a look at it, they won the league still in 2016, 2017 season. Man United haven't won the league for a long time. Arsenal haven't won it for a long time. Since then, it's only ever been Man City and Liverpool. So does this model work? Because they have won it a few times in the last couple of years.
Listen, we might be talking in 18 months and Chelsea won the league under the new manager, and then everyone will be saying that maybe it was the right thing to do. Havertz and Werner, the best players in the league. That is what will probably happen. And everyone will be looking back and saying that Abramovich was the right thing to do. Chelsea deserved to be fighting for the title, not just top 4. So in the future, maybe we can come back and talk about that. But at the moment, if you're a neutral, you don't see it as a good thing. You know, you feel that Frank Lampard deserved more time. At least give him to the end of the season and then have a reason to sack him. Like if they finish 5th or 6th, you've got a reason then to say you didn't make the top 4. Chelsea's a football club, minimum top 4. But to sack him when he's only 5 points off the top 4 is very, very harsh when you look at how bad Manchester United have been for half of this season and Arsenal. So it's very harsh. But if you look back at quotes Lampard said as a player about Villas-Boas, there were similar things that you look at Lampard's career as a manager as well.
Do you think that this is the end for Frank Lampard as a manager, or do you think that he'll want to go on to any of the clubs? Because obviously, you know, his heart is with Chelsea.
Yeah, 100%. I think you see sometimes in football, managers can always go back to clubs they've been sacked at. It wouldn't surprise me if Frank Lampard went to a Crystal Palace when Roy Hodgson goes, get some experience, or a Celtic or a club in Europe, gets 10, 15 years of experience, and then comes back to Chelsea. Maybe that was the right thing to do. You look at Steven Gerrard at Rangers. He's getting his experience in. He'll be there for a number of years, and then he might be the replacement for Klopp, and he might have more experience for the job. Maybe that was probably what Lampard needed, not to go straight to Chelsea after 1 year at Derby, get some experience. And we never know in football, the stranger things that have happened. Lampard might be back there in 10, 15 years.
Let's move on to your former club, Aston Villa. They're not doing too bad at the moment. I watched Sky Sports. I know you had a lot to say about the Man City game and the offside, and that's sort of gone now. But just talk to me about Villa's season so far and what you've made of it. From a neutral's point of view, on this side, they've been fantastic, great football. Dean Smith's been a breath of fresh air for the league with the football that he's producing for his team. But your opinion on your club?
I think the biggest thing about Aston Villa is the signings that they've brought in. They've all clicked straight away. Matty Cash, Martinez, Watkins, Barkley, all these players have come in. They've hit the ground running straight away, and they're looking like Premier League players, you know. And sometimes them signings like Watkins and Cash, they might not work out for some clubs, you know, Championship players coming to the Premier League. But these players look like Premier League players, and they're looking like a team that reminds me of the team that I played under Martin O'Neill, where you're fighting for top 4 and top 6. And this team can get there. You look at how they played against Manchester City. Yes, Manchester City were the best team, but Aston Villa, you know, they defended well. They had a few counter-attacks, and they've shown they can mix it with the big boys. So it wouldn't surprise me if Aston Villa can finish in the top 6 this season, because I think everyone's been impressed with them.
What do you make of, they've had a little bit of, people have slated them a little bit because they've had some postponements of games, saying they're getting sort of preferential treatment and stuff. So they have got the 8th in the table, I think, but they've got a few games in hand still. So they're actually doing better than it looks. But what do you make of the sort of postponement of games? Obviously they had to. I think pretty much the whole team had COVID at one point.
Yeah, I think it's hard, isn't it? I mean, if they set the trend off when Newcastle had a game called off. I mean, once you start that and other teams start getting cases, then you can't have the games on. If they'd stay strong maybe with Newcastle and says, if you can field 12, 13 players, then the game goes on. But once they didn't do that with Newcastle, then Aston Villa have every right to ask for games to be postponed, because I think there was probably 9, 10 of the players that had it. And I think in the rules, you're allowed to postpone games. So it's going to probably affect them for the rest of the season. I mean, I think they've got 4 games in like 10 days now. So it will be hard for them. But it's just a luck, isn't it? I'm sure maybe there might be other clubs for the rest of the season have games postponed because their players get COVID.
Gabby, actually, just talking about yourself now, I've talked about Frank Lampard and Dean Smith, managers. You've finished football. Have you ever thought about maybe going down that route? I know you're quite involved in media at the moment, but we've seen with a lot of media people, Gary Neville being an example. He went on from being a media man to being the manager of Valencia. It might not have worked out for him, but there's been a few other people. Steven Gerrard, another example. Gabby Agbonlahor, could you be involved in the Aston Villa setup at some point in the future?
I think maybe in the future one day. I mean, I've done my coaching badges. I passed them in Northern Ireland. But the problem with coaching is it's so hard to get a chance, and you have to be super dedicated to it. There's no, oh, I don't want to do this day, I don't want to do that day. You know, you don't have your own schedule. Like media work, you can sort of pick and choose what jobs you do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
With coaching, if you're coaching, for instance, an under-13 team, under-14 team, you have to be there. You have to be there from 7:30 till 5 p.m. And at the moment, that's not something that I can really see myself doing. And I wouldn't want to start it for a month and then not being fully in it, if that makes sense. So I think it's something you have to be 100% in. So I'd rather wait if that's a few more years and then maybe give it a go then.
I don't blame them. I don't blame you. I don't know why anyone would want to do management when they could just do the media. I honestly don't. The stress of it all.
Yeah, I know.
You can ask Gary Neville, actually. He'll probably give you a good insight on that. Let's talk about, we're in the transfer window at the moment. There's a few transfers that are going on. One that I want to point out to you, because I know you're an Arsenal fan, is Martin Odegaard to Arsenal. Talk to me about that. We know about his talent, 23 years old, young player, not sort of getting into Zidane's team at Real Madrid, but coming to Arsenal for the season. What do you make of that signing?
I think it's a really good signing because for Arsenal, they're not committed to it. You know, it's only a loan. I don't think anyone really knows much about him. I've only seen him play a couple of times. So I'm not sure what sort of player he is. But I'm sure Arteta's seen enough of him to bring him to the club and to you want a competition for places. You know, you've seen Smith Rowe's done very well. Saka's done well. Ozil's left now. You know, these players that are playing in the Arsenal team now, they need some competition to keep their level of performance high enough. So I'm sure Odergaard will come in. I don't think he'll start straight away. He'll have to earn his place by other players not playing very well. But he's an exciting player, I've heard. And if it works, maybe they can sign him. If it doesn't work, they can just send him back to Real Madrid. So it worked for Arsenal. And there's only, 3 months left of the season left. So it suits both parties.
We've only got sort of a few days left, really, the transfer window. Jesse Lingard, there's talks of him going to West Ham. What do you make of that?
I think it'll be a good signing for him. You look at West Ham at the moment with Souček and Rice. If they could get Lingard, he could play in front of them as a number 10 or as an 8 with Souček in front of Rice. And the recent weeks, Benrahma, Lanzini, Formals have been quite poor for me in the games they've played. So I'm sure we'll add competition for places as well. David Moyes knows him from Manchester United. So I think the move suits both parties.
Another name I want to point out to you is probably one of the biggest names as a free agent at the moment is Diego Costa. He terminated his contract at Atletico Madrid. I was reading something today from Micah Richards. He's done a column in the BBC and said that Diego Costa could be a good signing for Man City. They need a striker. They can't seem to score goals. He might be the one that wins them the league. What do you make of Diego Costa? And do you think he can be a good fit for Man City, even if it's for half a season?
Yeah, I think definitely he could be. But the problem with Diego Costa and managers is his temperament. Yeah. You know, he's a very angry guy. Isn't he? You see him on the pitch, he can fall out with managers. And maybe that might be something that Pep Guardiola might think he doesn't need in his team's harmony. You know, they've got a good squad there. Everyone looks like they get on. If Diego Costa come in and he's not guaranteed to start, you know, you've got Gabriel Jesus there. Maybe that might put Pep Guardiola off him. But if he can maybe control him and keep him calm, then definitely, because he's still got a lot to offer. He done well at Atletico Madrid, at Chelsea was outstanding, and competition for places, like I said about other clubs. Manchester City need it. Aguero, we don't know if he will play again this season because of his injuries. He's in and out the treatment room. Gabriel Jesus has been hot and cold. So definitely a little 3-month, 4-month loan would suit Manchester City for sure.
There's quite a lot of free agents at the moment, but a player that I want to talk about, and his contract's going to run up at the end of the season, is Lionel Messi. Still no sort of conclusion in regards to him and Barcelona. But for yourself, Gabby, where do you think his next best fit is for as a club? You know, Pep Guardiola is probably very heavily involved for him to bring him to Man City. But give me your thoughts on Messi.
The thing about Messi is that the people probably don't know is that he's been at Barcelona since he was, 8, 9, 10 years old. His family are there. His kids are at school there. He's settled there. It's going to have to be an outrageous amount of money for him to want to come and live in Cheshire. Do you know what I mean? I just can't picture it, to be honest. Unless he's staying with Aguero. And I just can't see it. I mean, the only reason that he might have left was because of the chairman, was it the president at Barcelona. But I'm sure that's getting cleared up now and a new one's coming in. So I'm sure he will stay. He'll want to be a one-man club. He won't want to come to England unless it's a last resort. And you've got to think of the deal that's going to cost them. I mean, you look at Kevin De Bruyne is going in for a new deal now and they can't agree what he wants to earn. Lionel Messi will probably want double what Kevin De Bruyne is earning to come to Manchester City. So for the harmony of the players that are there already and what it will probably do to the wage limit there, what other players would want as well, I just can't see it happening. For me, Messi will stay at Barcelona and at worst case, maybe when he's a bit older, will go to the Middle East for a payday. But I just can't see him leaving Barcelona, to be honest.
Before we finish, I just want to talk, obviously, at the very top of the table. It keeps changing all the time, pretty much week to week, it's all changed. What do you make of that? Do you think that makes it a great season, that every time you look, there's someone new at the top?
Yeah, I'm loving this season, you know. Last season, Liverpool winning by so much was boring. It started to remind me of, you know, PSG winning the league, Bayern Munich, you know, the teams that win their leagues quite easily. This season, Liverpool have struggled, obviously, because of the centre-halves being injured. But it's exciting. Leicester, Manchester City, Spurs, Manchester United, Liverpool. Any one of them can win the league now. I wouldn't put a bet on any of them now because Leicester are strong. They lose Vardy now for 3 weeks. Kevin De Bruyne is out for 6 weeks. So you're betting on Manchester City to probably win the league, but then they get a big injury in Kevin De Bruyne. And you probably start thinking, okay, then Liverpool are going to come back into it. They look like they're struggling even more. And then you look at Leicester, they lose Vardy. How are they going to cope in their next few games? So I think it's going to be close to call. And it wouldn't surprise me if it went down to the last game.
Gabby, you know this excitement, do you put it down to defenders not performing? Because I was listening to something quite recently and they were talking about defenders in the world and the class of defending. And it seems to have lowered. When you look at maybe a couple of seasons ago, not a couple of, about 10 years ago, you had Rio Ferdinand's, Vidić's, John Terry's, you had big figures, and you look in the world, you had Cannavaro's and these big defenders. Now you look at defenders and centre-backs especially, you've got Van Dijk. There's maybe about another 2, 3 that maybe I could pick, maybe Sergio Ramos, but he's very old, he makes mistakes still. Do you think the art of defending has sort of lowered, so that means that we're seeing a lot more goals now?
100%. I mean, when I was playing in my early years, defending was about defending. It wasn't about being good on the ball and, you know, dribbling out from the back and switching diags. It was about defending first and stopping the ball going in your net. I think a lot of these defenders now, the younger generation, it's all about being good on the ball, playing from the back, you know, and they forget that the most important thing is keeping clean sheets. And for me, that's what John Stones has learned. He's learned the hard way. And now he's got the best partnership with Diaz in the league. That's why I think that Manchester City will win the league, because of their defence, not about their attack. It's about they've got the best defence in the league. And definitely there's something that maybe needs to be looked at from clubs. Yes, it's nice to play from the back and play that lovely football, but the first thing is to defend and stop the ball going in the back of your net.
I was actually just going, that was going to be my next question, was Man City's defending, how he's improved. John Stones being an example, like you said there. At the start of his sort of footballing career, he did dilly and dally on the ball. He got caught many a times, happened with England. But now, John Stones, Ruben Diaz seem to be the partnership of this Premier League season so far at this present time. But the season's been crazy, so we don't know what's going to happen in about 2 months' time. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think just the way he's coming, you would never have said that Laporte would sit on the bench.
Yeah.
You'd think he'd be the one on the left-hand side, because it's the balance of the defence. He's left-footed, and then Diaz next to him. But fair play to Pep Guardiola. He doesn't care about how much he paid for a defender. He will play who's the best defenders, and that was John Stones coming in and showing the form that he had when they signed him. And for me, they've been outstanding, and that's the difference for me. It's going to win them the league, because they've got the best all-round team now, Manchester City. They've got great players in midfield and attack, and their defence is the best in the league. Liverpool have lost that. Leicester are the next one for me, with their all-round team, defensively very strong. We look at Manchester United, they can leak a few goals, and Tottenham can leak a few goals as well. So definitely something that Manchester City will be feeling confident with, and John Stones deserves a lot of credit.
Gabby, I wanted to sort of talk to you as someone who's an experienced football player. A lot of talk about Paul Pogba and his resurgence of form and how great he's been in the last couple of weeks. And a lot of people are saying that, and I'm only asking you this because you've been a star in the, in a big league with England as well. But people say, oh, he's playing for a new contract, or he's playing for a transfer. As a football player, do you enhance your performances if you know that there's going to be a carrot dangling at the end of the tunnel for you?
I think, say if you're going in for a new contract, you do want your performances to stay at a high level. Say if you are at a high level, you want them to stay there, because you negotiate a new contract. If your performances drop, the contract might drop, if that makes sense. But I'm sure with someone like Pogba, he just needs to be loved. And a lot of the critics have been on his back, and people jump on the bandwagon, to dislike Pogba. But I've heard that he's just a mentally strong lad who just wants to go out and play football, and he's shown that. And if it's because he wants a new contract or a transfer, then that's someone else will have to comment on that. But when I watch him play, he just looks like someone that's happy now. Yeah. And I think that the lack of fans at Old Trafford when he was going through that bad time is probably a good thing, because you've seen what fans can do to players when they're not too happy with them, especially when his agent come out and said something. If there were fans in the stadium then, they might have took it out on Pogba. But there's been no fans at Old Trafford or any game he's played at this season. He's just been able to play his football and show his talent. Because for me, Fernandes has been quite poor recently, and Pogba has taken it on, and he's been the best player for Manchester United recently. So I'm sure if he gets a new contract, he'll have his critics, but he deserves it from his recent performances.
Gabby, were you ever affected by fans? Were you one of them players that was affected by what the fans were doing? Because some players, it seems like some players also, some players sort of block it out completely. What sort of player were you?
I always blocked it out, to be honest. I went through some stages where Villa fans were on my back, but that's natural, Iniesta and Xavi had it at Barcelona. I mean, anyone can get it from fans when you're not performing. But for me, fans, anyone, I've never let anyone, get to me. I've always just ignored fans. That's home fans or away fans. And I think that's what's helped me during my career, being that mentally strong, to not let anyone bother you. And that's what I've heard about Paul Pogba. He's that sort of guy who, don't matter what people say, he won't listen to them. I think he come out with something before, didn't he, about Graham Souness? He didn't know who he was. Yeah. That's something that I'd say if I was him. When people keep going on it, just pretend that you don't know them, you can't hear them, and play your game.
Well, before we finish, I do actually want to ask you about Leeds United, your little rivalry that you have, especially with Danny Mills. You've said that they're looking tired, and that you've even said the state of their pitch is not up to scratch. What sort of talk to me about this rivalry?
You know what? It started. I think they lost to Wolves earlier on in the season. I thought I'd have a bit of banter, just try and wind a few ex-players up. And I said that, their manager Bielsa's a myth. I wasn't being serious at the time. I was having a bit of banter, and I was new to Twitter at the time in September, so I didn't really know how it worked. And all of a sudden, my Twitter was erupting. I was like, "Whoa, this is what Twitter's like." Obviously, I got all the abuse. The radio stations got hold of it, all the media, etc. So after that, because of the abuse I got off their fans, I turned it into a rivalry that'll be there forever now. So even though I do like the way they play and what Bielsa's done, whenever they lose, I'll say something because I'm just petty like that. I can't let a rivalry go. And it'll continue. So, for instance, if they lost tonight to Newcastle, I'd have to tweet something straight after the game. I feel like my fingers will be like itching to do it. But it's all a bit of fun. And some of the Leeds fans don't like it, but a lot of them laugh about it. So it's a bit of fun, isn't it?
You call it petty. I think it's just being competitive. I think that's what you're one of them competitive guys, aren't you? That's what.
You know what? As well, I'll be messaging the Villa lads as well when they play them next month, and I'll be begging them to beat them because if Villa lose to them again, I'm in big trouble, aren't I? I might
beat them for me.
Yeah. Gabby, you know what? You've been a star. Thank you so much for taking time out to talk to us. We know you're a busy man. Where are you going to be on next? Are you going to be on the radio? What's the schedule like for Gabby?
Yeah, I'm doing TalkSport on Saturday evening. So hopefully there's some good results. And Aston Villa are playing Southampton at the same time. So I'll be getting some stick from callers if we lose. So I'm hoping they can win the game.
Well, good luck and thank you for your time. And we'll chat to you again soon.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Good luck.
Thank you.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Great to be joined there by Gabby Agbonlahor, and interesting to hear his views on Frank Lampard, how Leeds are doing, and also his beloved Aston Villa. But stay tuned, we have another great guest joining us. It is presenter Kyle Walker.